So, hello, Catrin.
Hello, hi, Georgie.
Thank you so much for joining me. I have a
Pleasure.
feeling from the last 10 minutes when we've just been checking an audio and video that this is going to be an interesting talk and maybe very different from what people are expecting. But we never start. Just before you joined me, I was thinking, I wonder what we're going to talk about today, because we never planned this. So it'll be interesting as to where this goes today. And,
Yeah.
we will be recording it so people can watch whenever they want. We'll wait a moment and then people can, as people start joining us. And if you would like to let us know who you are, we can't see you. You can see us, we can't see you. If you'd like to put a message in the comment box, then it'd be nice to be able to know who's there, even if it's just to say hello and where you are. Yep, somebody's put a thumbs up, so they're there. Can you see who's there, Catrin, or not? Or can you still?
No, I can't. No.
Okay, well, we've got a few people now, and yes, please do pop something in the comments box. Or yes, you've been saying hello and via the icons, or what do they call the reaction things?
Emojis?
Yeah, maybe emojis. Anyway, we've got a few people here, and more will join us, I'm sure, and we will be recording it so people can watch what they missed. Oh, there's Martin. Hello, Martin. Yeah, so you presumably know Martin then, Catrin?
Yes, I know Martin very well. Yes, we've worked together in the past. So, hi, Martin.
Well, that's good. So, do you want to tell us a bit about you then, Cat, as to where do you work, what do you do, why are you in this work? That'd be a good start.
Absolutely. But first, can I just say a very, very big thank you for, letting me, come on today and say hello, but also to thank you, Georgie, for this amazing SIRPA work that you have introduced to the world, because for me, it's been absolutely life-changing, and and also for my work and for my patients. And so, just massive gratitude to you for having the foresight and, just having the inspiration and the genius to create this, because it's absolutely phenomenal. So that's my first thing I'd really like to say.
Really kind of you. Thank you, Kat.
And so what brought me to this work was I'm an osteopath of about over 20 years. I started my training over 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I've been working as an osteopath all that time. And I was introduced to your work through a colleague, Pippa Cousins, who's I think she's been on before.
Yes.
She was raving about it, and she's very wise. So I listened to her, and
she'll like to hear that.
No, she's very wise.
I agree. Yes.
We've done some trauma work together, some sort of trauma work in relation to osteopaths helping people with trauma. Mm-hmm. So I already knew that she was involved with that. But then, so I started to explore your work and decided to enlist on the course in early 2021. Mm-hmm. And yes, it was mind-blowing. It was revelationary, coming from the arena that I do in osteopathy, where I've been never quite understanding why some patients get better and some patients didn't. I didn't really understand chronic pain, and the only things I'd heard about chronic pain was that, oh yes, chronic pain can be helped by kind of mindfulness and acceptance type of approaches, but you can't really recover from it. It's more about managing it long term, and so there was always a bit of a dismal attachment to chronic pain. So to come across your work and understand that full recovery was possible was amazing, and also discovering that I also had chronic pain, which I didn't realize. So I had a sort of chronic, I had a pain that kept reoccurring in my left hip all the time. And I'd go and see my fellow osteopath, who would sort it out for me, and it would get better, but then it would come back. But as I started to go through your program, I was like, oh, I've actually got, this is chronic pain. And so the first part of my journey was recovering from my own chronic pain. And now I don't need to go and see my osteopath about it, and it's completely gone, and I'm recovered. So having done that journey, I realized a lot of it you know, how important the educational side was. It's because I came from a biomechanical perspective, I couldn't believe that I had, you know, that this was anything to do with mind body, even though it had cropped up when I was going through a difficult, you know, when I was having difficult times in my marriage. And it didn't disappear when I got divorced. You know, being a single mum, it carried on and would get worse during stressful times. But I didn't really understand that pattern. So, yes, it was really interesting going through the educational process. And that was the hardest thing for me as an osteopath. I had to read, and I read your book, Unlocking Your Key to Chronic Pain, or Your Key to Unlocking Chronic Pain. And then I read all the Sarno books, and I just had to read and read and read, and it took a few months for that to percolate through into my brain for me to really understand. Sorry, I tend to blah, blah, blah.
No, you carry on, but now I can understand that, and I think it really helps us as practitioners to have experienced this.
Yes.
And even if somebody comes on our training and they don't have chronic pain, we all have emotions. We've all had stress, and it's more about beginning to. Hello, Matthew. It's more about knowing it ourselves. The more we can do it experientially, I think the easier it is for us to help our clients, or for them to. We can empathise with them, and they can understand that we understand it at a deeper level, rather than, oh yes, let me treat you for this condition, without really understanding ourselves experientially.
Yes. And it's different for everybody, isn't it? So what each person needs to get them to help them on this journey is different. So for me in particular, it was getting over this cognitive idea that all pain had to be biomechanical. And so that constant reading, and then becoming slowly aware that my pain was improving as I read more and more. And then moving into the more, okay, so you cognitively understand the concept, but then moving more into the embodiment practices.
Yes.
Which I think that was, again, revelationary. I had psychotherapy back in the days when I was struggling, you know, going through my divorce, but I'd never done any embodiment work, which is, you know, feeling it through the body, feeling the emotions and processing those through the body. So that was then the next step, you know, that really.
And I think that's an important step, because this is about personal development, really, isn't it? This is why we as practitioners cannot do this work without practicing it ourselves. We have to practice it ourselves, because people feel like, oh, this, you know, maybe when they're new to this, that okay, this is about how to get rid of my pain. No, actually, this is about working on you to be able to let go of your pain. And for us, for example, actually. Navigating through life and dealing with all the stress, hopefully without getting symptoms, or if there are symptoms, because we are human, then actually not going into that fight or flight and fear around it, but actually, oh, okay, this is interesting. This is telling me I'm not dealing with something very well. So what can I do? But in the meantime, integrating some of the self-care stuff that is so that. Well, I never used to do before. Would just ignore. Keep pushing through.
Knowing that all of that self-care and compassion is helping to turn down the nervous system. You know, it's helping to calm that nervous system, which is you know, fundamentally behind, you know, a lot of this.
I love the way this has evolved. Sorry, Kat. I love the way this work has evolved over the years. You know, from the understand and journal, which is mainly it. Sort of get this, understand what's going on, journal about everything, and that might be all some people need. But the more we embody this, like you said, the more we start feeling when we have an emotion, or just noticing the sensations in the body and address that, then the less likely we are to end up having sensations down the line, and the more we can start looking at why pain has gone up, or, you know, if you're actually still on your journey, what's actually going on. And I think that plays such a big role, and I love the way it's gone far more into the embodying this work, the somatic work now.
Absolutely. I had to use with the journaling side of things. I did a bit of journaling, But then there was that South African psychotherapist that you interviewed in one of your SIRPA.
Yes, Dr. Wayne Campers.
Yes, and he said he didn't get on with journaling too well, but so he used a book called The Presence Process.
Presence Process,
by Michael Brown, and I got hold of that, and that was very powerful for me. That was a 15-minute practice in the morning and a 15-minute practice in the evening of breathing, being very present, because that's why it's called the present process, present to the breath. And then as emotions come up and physical sensations come up, sitting with them and processing them. And it's like a 10-week program.
Yes.
And, you know, that's what I did. And that's what then shifted me on again, you know.
And the reason I recommended that to Wayne was because he was a doctor and very much intellectualizing everything. Yes. And he was actually 75% better when I'd seen him half a dozen times. And I just thought this might be a good way to actually get him out of the head and into the body. Which is what he talks about in his video that he did. And that's really, and then I started recommending it to quite a few people where that was more of an issue. For some people, it, like you said, everybody's different. Some people don't like it at all. Other people, and I've had 2 doctors so far who've done it who found it absolutely wonderful, because again, it's a similar process, but it's working on the body, allowing the emotions to pass through. And as Matthew said, we're speaking his language on so many levels. I know we are, Matthew. And if you want to put your spoke in, by all means, put a comment in there if you'd like. And hello to Suzanne as well.
Yes, please do. And I was on a, because as an osteopath, we're always very interested in the evidence-based side of things. So the research that's come out recently has been amazing, and that's an amazing tool that I can use with my clients in order to help to give that certainty, because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, is that certainty, isn't it? Yeah. And I was on in November. I tuned into the Australian group, the NOI group, who and they're very much at the cutting edge of the neuroscience of pain. Yeah. One of the things, the statement that came out of that was just pure gold for me, because they're working, one of them was where they're working with elite athletes. So they're working out how can we use this new science, mind-body science, to help elite athletes who have to deliver every day. Some of the people they're working with are people like Cirque du Soleil, or high-level athletes who've got to perform even when they've got pain, etc., etc. Yeah. But the bottom line of everything was, and the phrase is, what you think about the state of your tissues, as in your body tissues, will influence the state of your tissues. Yes, yes. And so basically, and it sounds a bit woo-woo. It sounds like the whole, manifestation thing, but it's actually, this is the cutting-edge latest neuroscience, which is saying that if you see a part of your body as vulnerable, what your brain will then do is it will protect the area, so it will tighten up the muscles around that area, and it will send more neurochemicals, more anti-inflammatory chemicals to give you more pain to that area, and that's it. I mean, it's and so once you start, what I do is when I'm working with my clients is I try and understand how are they seeing that area of their body in their mind at the moment, because many of them have Googled it. You Google it, and then it comes out a big red bulgy thing, or inflamed, or
absolutely. And the names, that the names of the symptoms can be so scary. Even with one lady, and I've mentioned this before and talks, who was really, she had tinnitus, very severe tinnitus, but the word tin to her was like scraping nails down a board. And so she was a great one to talk to about, every time she told people she's got tinnitus, or my tinnitus is bad, or whatever, to help her recognize that the words we speak influence us and our bodies. And therefore, by changing the name, for her, it was Tinkerbell. So she began to think of the tinnitus as Tinkerbell, and you can't be angry with or frustrated with Tinkerbell, and it just helps. And also not calling it my tinnitus, my Tinkerbell, because then we're owning it. I'm depressed, I'm anxious. No, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling anxious, rather than owning it and being part of it, which is very hard then to split from it, isn't it?
Yes. And one of the other things you can do is, I mean, it's quite a big step sometimes to see an area that's painful as completely, healthy, but is to see it as in recovery. So to start reframing it from being, vulnerable to knowing that every single part of your body is always trying to heal at every single minute. It possibly can.
Absolutely.
It's fighting. Your body is fighting to heal you, and if you can see it as in recovery, you can just shift it so that maybe I can just kind of let go a little bit and see that as healing and getting better. And
absolutely.
And the other thing that came out of that was pain doesn't necessarily mean danger.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
it doesn't necessarily mean tissue damage either.
No. Yeah.
So Susie says, I always think the word patient is an issue on so many levels. And I think that's a very personal thing, Susie. Some people hate the word client, some don't like patient. Having worked in the NHS for so many years, I used patient. Then when I went privately, I thought I ought to call people clients. And then there were many people that didn't like to be thought of as clients. And it's trying to find what fits you. I know where you're coming from, Susie, but it is a very individual thing.
Yes, and I am trying to switch more to saying client. It's an old hangover from, particularly with this work, it's an old hangover from, the osteopath.
Because we treated patients, we were treating patients, whereas now actually we're supporting and guiding clients.
Yes.
But it's not easy. As Matthew says, what about student? As we are the teacher. Yeah, absolutely. Could be student. And each individual will have to find what's best for them. But the NHS still very much about patients, doctors with patients, physio generally, physios would have patients. So for me, it was a concerted effort to swap. And I still write patient and then swap it to client. So I've not completely moved over, but I'm doing my best.
Yes, and I actually work in an NHS doctor's practice, so I think it's I'm in that environment where
and it's very hard to say something. This reminds me of it, and I was talking to my mother about this recently, how she's messed me up completely by being so pedantic that actually licorice, you see, I can't even say it without thinking of it. Growing up, she used to say, look in the Oxford English Dictionary, it's spelt licorice, I-C-E, it's pronounced licorice. But when you're surrounded by everybody who calls it licorice, and I want to fit in, okay, so as a child and teenager especially, but it muddled me up so much that even now I can't say the word without thinking of my mother. Maybe I need to do some work on this. But everybody just laughs if you say licorice. Well, everybody I meet anyway. So I tend to
like it, actually. I quite like it. But it's the law of conformity, isn't it? I think it's the law of conformity. The people we hang around with, we end up talking like them, we end up thinking like them, and that's what we're up against in this mind-body work, isn't it? That there is this law of conformity. Everybody's talking about their arthritis or their disc, and particularly the environment I work in, where the doctors are still saying that to the patients, then yes, you can feel a bit alone when you're doing this work as well. Everybody, people don't really understand.
Absolutely. And in fact, in the newsletter that's just gone out, I've added in an article. Actually, I think it was just for the health professionals, but talking about how important the language we use to our clinicians is. I've had so many patients who, one guy he was told my back's broke. In his broad Yorkshire accent, he said, my back's broke. He'd been told that, and he was an an professional rugby player, and had not been able to carry on because his back pain started, which he blamed on a tackle that had happened a few years before the pain came on. But he was heading towards retirement and not really too sure what he wanted to do, what he could do in his retirement. And so because the pain was getting worse and worse, he went and had scans, and he was literally told, your back is broke. And by the time he came to see me, because we were in a business networking meeting together, and somebody else had come to see me from the group and done really well with his back, so he thought he'd come. I remember, he did so well, but actually, luckily, when he came, he'd had another scan, and the specialist had basically just said, "You basically got a rugby player's back." So that is so different. So yes, we're going to have loads of wear and tear. You are a professional rugby player. Oh, sorry, you take over. Somebody's knocking on the door. Presumably, I'll let you take over. Think about some words or something.
Yeah, well, what I'd also like to talk about is from the IFS work, from the internal family systems work, and from some of Georgie's work as well. What you see is that whenever this chronic pain as a syndrome is all about, it has a meaning. It's all about protection. So I love the fact that chronic pain has, you can find a meaning in your suffering. So when we have to suffer, suffering is really hard, isn't it? But if you can find a meaning in your suffering, it can be really helpful. So for me, the understanding that pain, this excruciating pain, this excruciating suffering, sometimes for many, many years, when you understand that it's actually about your brain trying to protect you, your nervous system trying to protect you, that's when you can start to engage with the compassion around it and the understanding of it. And that's what I was just saying, Georgie. I really love the IFS approach, seeing it as a protector, allowing it to tell its story, understanding it, and then giving it something else to do, which is I just find that there's if people can turn suffering around and find some kind of meaning from it, it's usually helpful in some way. And I've loved using the IFS approach with my clients.
So internal family systems.
Yeah, I did say that, but just in case.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just considering the pain as a part, and lots of different parts that are with it. We might be sad, but no, it's a part of us that's sad.
Yes.
Part of us might be feeling quite settled or at peace, but another part's sad, another part's in pain, another part's frustrated. And yes, it's quite nice of looking at it from that perspective as well, and separating yourself from that, the pain. I think part of it as well is just recognizing that when we are in pain, so often we are focusing on the pain all the time, or that part of the body, and what we can do, what we can't do. And gradually, as people start moving their attention to other things and finding something different in their life to engage them with, finding a bit of purpose or a bit of fun and social activities, really help, because the more focus there is on that pain, the more enforcing that. And we know that fear and rumination, worrying about things, exacerbates pain. So it's important to remove the tension from there. So we've got Matthew saying Dick Schwartz, who developed IFS, met with Dr. Schubert and Dr. Mate. Yes. Maybe you could interview Dick as well. Maybe so. Maybe we could actually get some of the practitioners who've done IFS to talk to you. But yes, there was a lovely article as well, and a discussion with Dick Schwartz and Howard Schubiner as well, which is good. But to be involved with Dr. Mate as well, fabulous, really lovely. And then Susie says, IFS is wonderful, most helpful for self-compassion, best modality she's tried. That's really good to hear, Susie.
Yes, I find it really effective. And I have to thank you for the article that went into the Daily Mail about
recently in January.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So a client came to me through that, actually. It was great. It was great that they had seen it and recognised it immediately, knew that they had mind body pain.
Yes.
And they're doing really well because they've already got that conviction, that belief that that's what they've got.
Yeah.
As we go through the work, they're really shifting. So amazing to get it in the mainstream media.
Yes. Well, we had one in the Daily Mail probably about 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer, and the backlash in the comments underneath afterwards was huge. I don't think this was quite as bad. And we've literally, in our field, have had an article in the national papers and international papers every month so far this year, which is fabulous, really good.
Fantastic.
Things definitely coming around. And Susie was saying, she's doing, presumably doing IFS not about pain. IFS can be used for all sorts of different things. It's not just the pain. In fact, the reason Howard Schubiner was talking to Dick Schwartz, or the first time they got together, was actually Howard sort of really talking to Dick about how they could use IFS specifically for pain, for chronic pain. So I think that sort of broadened the sort of work that they can use it for as well.
Yes, because it was being used for depression, anxiety, addictions, all of those fall into that kind of protective parts of IFS, don't they?
Yes. Yes, quite. Yeah. But yes, there's loads of courses about IFS now, and certainly the full training is quite long, very long and in depth. Very good from my understanding, and very difficult to get onto.
Is it? Right. Yes.
Very difficult. There's long waiting lists, but it just can work. Like Susie says, a complete system. Absolutely, it's can be really helpful. And it's a lovely way of working more, especially if somebody is on board with this approach as well. Very much sabbatically as well, which is good.
And there's a if you like Dr. Chatterjee, there's a session of him going through an IFS exercise with Dr. Schwartz as well. So if you look up on Dr. Chatterjee's podcasts, he actually goes through, because it was really helpful for him and his chronic pain.
Yeah,
and he talks about that in this interview, and then Richard takes him through a little bit of IFS work. So he has the courage to broadcast live.
Yes, he's done that quite a few times. He's done it recently with the breath work.
Yes.
He's called the doctor, but this breath holding course that he's done.
Yes.
And he did the Wim Hof jumping in a bucket as well. So he likes to do things like that. And when I look at, and when you think of the work he's done, the people he's talked to, no wonder he's sort of just, his whole understanding has opened up so much from when he first did that Doctor in the House series on television, which was a number of years ago now, 7 or 8 years ago. And really was aware of stress in people's lives, but not the link with past trauma or any of the emotional stuff, really.
Yes.
So you can really see, I've been really interested watching his journey over the years. And how can you not expand and understand so much more when you're talking to people like, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk and Gabor Mate and Dick Schwartz and Howard Schubiner, that took us 2 years to get him on that podcast.
It was a lovely one, though. It's a very good podcast, isn't it?
It is a good one, yes. Yeah. I remember at the conference, Howard saying that he'd overslept and missed the train, and his first thought was, "Oh, Georgie's going to kill me."
You were trying to get him on there, were you?
We've been trying for 2 years.
There's something going on there, isn't there? There's some kind of subconscious fear about going on.
Happened when it was meant to happen.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. But I think Dr. Chatterjee's doing amazing work.
I think he is.
Good for him. He's really leading the charge on alternative and holistic approaches to health.
And I think you're right there, Susie. He's good because he's prepared to be vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah, right, he is.
Absolutely. Because I know that when I first came across him and we were asking him to speak at our conference back in 2017, didn't really feel he was ready on board with our work then. And I know that he did have back pain, but then it eased off, and he was very much talking about a physio physically treating him. So I was thinking, oh, okay, yeah, maybe maybe we're not ready to have him to speak at one of our conferences now, definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
And he was hoping to speak at our last conference, but unfortunately he couldn't at the last minute, which was a shame. But, one day.
Oh, wow, that'd be great to have him next time.
It would, yeah, it really would.
The other person I really admire is Joe Dispenza. I mean, it goes without saying. So whilst I love all the science, I mean, Joe Dispenza is on the scientific side, but I do love the slightly metaphysical side of things, and I love the power of using things like visualizations as well to enhance this work. You know, not just focusing on, you know, obviously being present to the and embodying the emotions and processing, etc. But also that for some people, that sort of ability to you know, visualize what the future and how you want to be, and changing the way in which the body is feeling through that method. I think that's really powerful as well. And the way he links it with the quantum field, the quantum science. And he's been doing fMRI, he's doing MRI studies of the brain. So his work, where he uses meditation and visualizations, he's creating sort of healing changes in people. He has these conferences that he does. He comes over to Europe sometimes and he does these conferences, and literally they cost thousands of pounds to attend his conferences, and they sell out in a couple of minutes. I mean, he's so popular. But if you just read some of his books, like You Are the Placebo, or, you know, Becoming Supernatural, he draws in all the science behind what he's doing. But then he also does some visualization, you know, some meditations and visualizations that you can download from his website, and use those daily to just bolster all of this.
A lot of free resources that he provides, isn't there?
Yes. I mean, some people, sometimes his meditations can be a bit. He uses this big booming voice. Sometimes he sounds a bit like. Do you remember the Wizard of Oz? And there was the the wizard when they finally turn up. Wizard,
yes.
Booming voice coming out. Well, sometimes he can sound a bit like that. He looks. But I think his stuff is good, because some people, you know, I think they need the guiding. You know, if you've got that brain that kind of jumps around all the time, I think guided meditations, visualizations. But his are specifically designed for, you know, creating changes with health and pain. And I mean, he had an accident and broke a lot of his spine, and he refused all operations and spent 3 months meditating, and he was able to walk again. When he was in his early 20s. So he's kind of
you do hear some incredible stories, and I know Joe Dispenza's work has just evolved and gone far more into the science more recently. Still, some people call it pseudoscience, but the science is there. David Hamilton talks about the science behind visualization as well, and there's plenty of evidence there to show the benefits of visualizations and to help reprogram the brain. So
there's the people who call it pseudoscience. Well, they probably call this pseudoscience as well, don't they? And
the polyvagal theory, absolutely. But
when you understand that the Newtonian science, the paradigm of Newtonian science, that a lot of these critics of what, you know, who are calling it pseudoscience the place that they're coming from is actually fundamentally flawed anyway. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of the double slit experiment, but it's basically an experiment that was done in the 1920s that shows that until particles don't exist until we actually observe them into reality. So there's this experiment. It's the most repeated experiment. Sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but it just helps to see that we're still being influenced by a slightly outdated paradigm regarding physics, because double slit experiment shows that until we observe particles into existence, up until then they're just waves. They're just waves, photons of in a wave form, and it's the most repeated experiment since the 1920s when it was first done. And Einstein spent the last 25 years of his life trying to explain how this fitted into the Newtonian paradigm, and he couldn't do it. He died doing it. So once you start to understand this, you realise that actually there's a lot out there that is still, it's all to play for. Basically.
Yes, absolutely.
So whatever you believe in, whatever works for you, go for it, because if it's going to help you, then yeah.
Absolutely, and it's about having that open mind, not being overly analytical. All this is about letting go and surrendering. So what's wrong with reading a book and just let it filter in, and then open-minded skepticism? That's what we want. Yeah, absolutely. Open-minded skepticism. So otherwise, it's dogma, isn't it? So yes, absolutely. Definitely not. So Katerina says some of the critics haven't really done science. All science research is limited by methodology. True. Studying mind-body in traditional and current methods is not easy. Absolutely. It's and I think that was the challenge for Dr. Sarno, the difficulty of actually studying his ideas, his suggestions, and studying emotions. But so many more people have done that now, and especially with functional MRI scans coming in, it's getting easier, but it's still not easy. So Susie says, I've always thought there would be one person who would save me, and realize that all of these people are saying the same thing, and it's up to me not to scurry around, but to know the answer is in me. Absolutely. For all of us, the answer is in us. And I think that's where, with Matthew saying, being a teacher, that's all we are. We're here to support and guide, and to help people sort of release some of the stuck stuff or some of the layers, but to be able to actually then find the answer within them. And that's for all of us, whatever we're looking for, whatever we are hoping for. And I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, Susie, was about Bruce Lipton and epigenetics, and it's all about beliefs and how much beliefs impact us. And beliefs basically are just thoughts that have come into patterns and develop a belief. And that's why it's so important to be aware of our thoughts and start working with our thoughts and then our beliefs.
Absolutely. And actually, we read that book, Biology of Belief, many years ago when we were still studying as osteopaths. It's quite an old book, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We all knew that it was true, but it wasn't until I come across your work, Georgie, that you were able to put it into practical application, really. And again, I just have to thank you for that. So,
and it's interesting that I came across this work before I came across Bruce Lipton. So I came across epigenetics sort of about a year afterwards, or maybe not even that. But that was another for me. I mean, reading Sarno's first book for me was an aha moment. It was like a complete epiphany. But then coming across Bruce Lipton's work, and I had to listen to it a few times because it's not the easiest book to sink in. Not for me anyway, not being an academic. And that was another aha moment for me when I began to realize that the importance of our beliefs, and that just because they're our belief, they're not necessarily accurate. And one of them for me, which I was talking to a client about earlier, was believing that if I had a sore throat, it meant that I was going to have a chest infection or a cold or whatever, because that had always happened. And I used to have really bad chest infections and colds. And that was a belief that if I have a sore throat, then it was like, downhill I went. Whereas actually, it's not that I never get a sore throat now, but it's always like, okay, that's interesting. What's going on that I'm not dealing with? Boost my self-care, step back from a lot of commitments that I might have, and whatever I need. And rarely do I ever have a cold or a chest infection. And probably I can count on one hand in the last 15 years. And I remember those times because I remember when, like all sorts of things all happened all in one go. But otherwise, the majority of the time, it's about, okay, if you suddenly get a headache or pain increases or you get a sore throat, go, okay, that's interesting. If you haven't done anything cause that, obviously not with a cold, that you treat that as a signal to actually, it's a wonderful signal to be able to look at, okay, how can I maintain my health and stop myself going downhill?
Yes.
So that broke that belief. And that belief I used to, for the first probably year, that my first thought was, oh God, I'm going to be ill when I had a sore throat. And it took me a while until gradually, that wasn't my first thought. The first thought was, oh, what's going on that I'm not dealing with?
Yes, yes, I love
and
that.
That's just one example of a belief. But,
yes, yeah. No, I love it. When I get a pain, I'm like, oh, and I want to go and lie down and tune into it.
Yes,
I know what it's about. Which sounds really bad, and I try and explain this to some of my clients now, and they look at me as if I'm slightly mad. But yeah.
And the same comes when people say, so many of our clients that I nearly said patients again. So many of our clients who've done recovery stories at some point say, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, if you're not somebody who really is on board with this and who's got, chronic pain has affected you badly for years, then that's a really hard concept to accept, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think this is what I was saying earlier about the meaning that can come out of suffering.
Yes.
Ultimately, it's
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's also working on different levels as well. I don't struggle with any physical ailments now, but I'm still on my journey. I'm still really interested to look at, emotional changes, my mindset, my thoughts, how they're impacting me, things in my life that are triggering me.
Yes. Yeah.
There's always going to be things like that. And it's about trying to sort of understand but undo some of the stuff within me in order to be able to respond more appropriately.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were talking, weren't we, just earlier about triggers and how instead of trying to necessarily remove the triggers, we were talking about the fact that the triggers are often projections. Our own projections. The triggers are reflecting something back to us about ourselves, and about.
So, what was the term you used? Because I know you used. Was it Deepak Chopra term?
So I was trying to understand. So in terms of triggers, I'd recently come across some work that was talking about when we're triggered by somebody else, it's actually a part of it's to do with the shadow side, and there's a part of us that we're denying. So that part, in the way in which that person is triggering us, and they're doing something that we find absolutely appalling. What we're actually doing is denying that part of ourselves, and true wholeness, which relates to true health, is about being able to embrace even that dark,
the ugly dark side of us. Yes,
there's a part of us that could be like that too. And once we do that, once we're able to, and he's got a 3-step. He's got like a Deepak Chopra, his books. He's always got like a 6-step program for. He always breaks it down into steps, and it's almost exactly the same as this emotional, embodiment work.
Yes.
First of all, feeling it, allowing it to tell its story, detaching from it, all of these steps. But there's what they talk about with this is it. Then there's a power that comes from being able to embrace your shadow side, being able to embrace those parts of us that we really don't like, because that's then you're bringing in you are accepting your wholeness, the whole of you, dark side and everything. And
absolutely.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, so I've been exploring this a lot myself as well, and especially on a course that I'm doing at the moment. And one of the things that I found really powerful is a projection tool that we've been using. And one, you start off by, if you notice you've been triggered by somebody, so whether it's an email or somebody in your life that you just find really annoys you or has made you angry or sad or whatever, that you just tune in to yourself and to just unconditional love, whatever, and just actually imagine them and just say, I see them as maybe as angry. I see them as, I did this with my elderly mother recently in the last few days. And I just realized after a call, I'd had some heartburn. And I just, after a while, I went, oh, okay, I wonder what this is about. And I did a bit of journaling, but I decided I actually wanted to use this to see how it would go. And I remember saying this, I see her as, and the word vulnerable came out. So I said, I'm not showing my vulnerability by doing this here, saying this here. But anyway, so I said that, and I could feel some emotion. And then it's about actually allowing yourself to feel that, but also then letting that go, sending that out to the universe, letting it go, and then turning it around and saying, I see myself as vulnerable. And much to my surprise, there was a huge emotion came up. And then it was about sitting with that, calm breathing, sitting with it, allowing whatever's there. So the same thing, you know, pause, breathe, feel, allow this to be there, let that go. And it was really powerful, actually. And the heartburn settled down.
Yeah.
And then you can do it again on sort of, I see this person as something else. Because again, as you said, it's like it's reflecting a part of you. And this is a way of bringing to light this part. And sometimes it might be, you know, I see that person as vicious. And then you turn that around to yourself. I don't think I'm vicious. I haven't done that one yet, but maybe maybe I am. I don't know. But it's again, like you said, that shadow side, that side that we feel shame about. So and the shame just keeps that stuff down, so that we don't.
That's lovely, Georgie. I really like that, because that enables you to kind of tackle both of it at once, doesn't it? The projection and the reflection. You're tackling both. Where did you find that process from? Where did you?
It's the course I'm doing, but I believe this is found later on in the Course in Miracles, so partway through the Course in Miracles, and that's something that is quite powerful. But yes, I've been doing it with various different things and people and whatever, and I think it's really, really helpful.
Yeah. There's another one that I quite like, which helps you to detach a little bit from things, and particularly when somebody's really triggering you and really winding you up. And this isn't mine. It comes from a chap called Peter Sage, who's one of those kind of coaching people who's a bit out there as well. He's very much in that kind of metaphysical world, but he kind of has this metaphor of you are the star of your own movie, and all the people around you are your co-stars. Yes, and there's a few extras as well. So your co-stars would be your close family, you know, maybe your partner or your immediate family, or people who are regularly there and important, but then the rest of them are extras. Yeah. And if you imagine yourself like James Bond, and you've got the villain, and you know, you've been in this movie, you've been in this scene, and you've been, you know, he's got his hands around his throat, and you've been struggling, you know, in a fight, and then the director goes cut, and it finishes, and you all go down to Starbucks afterwards to have a coffee break. Yeah. And then you're in Starbucks, and you see the villain. You don't go up to them and start strangling them and, you know, again, and fighting them. You kind of go up and say, wow, that was an amazing you know, villainous part that you played there. Where do you pull that one out from? You know, and you have a sort of discussion. And you can do it with people who are really annoying you. So maybe somebody who's really triggered you recently, or is regularly triggering you, you can, in your sort of morning meditations, you can go to Starbucks with them and just say, wow, you know, when you sort of started manipulating me the other day, or when you tried to, you know, that was incredible. When, you know, that's you're really doing a really good part there. And it just and you can actually visualize the conversation that they have back with you, you know, and it just can help you to sort of start to detach from that sort of role that they're playing in your life.
And maybe recognizing it's a part of them as well.
Yeah.
Again, back into parts.
Just taking the sting sometimes out of a situation might be.
So basically, back to IFS again, as Matthew was saying when we were talking about earlier when we were talking about parts that need to be heard and accepted. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And then Susie is saying it's difficult because we tend to use the word chronic pain rather than chronic symptoms. Sorry about that, Susie, but SIRPA was set up based on chronic pain. My book was set up about chronic pain. That is the emphasis of my work. We do also, as you know, we treat other symptoms that are not chronic pain. But certainly SIRPA's work, the main focus is chronic pain. And then it's finding all of us will treat other symptoms as well. But apologies, Susie, but I don't think I'm likely to change. And I know there are a lot of other people that, again, use chronic pain because that is the focus of the work they do as well. And it depends. Whereas somebody like Penny George, who had chronic fatigue and he set up the organisation Living Proof, she's the same Susie, and she wants more focus to be on other symptoms, and whether that's fatigue or any other symptoms. But yeah, it depends on who you're speaking to and what the emphasis of their work is, I suppose.
I think what is quite interesting on that subject because it is the interface between pain and the immune system, which might have an influence over other symptoms. I presume, we're talking about all sorts of things, whether it be skin conditions or, digestive conditions. And what, I was talking about that research that was being done in Australia, or that came out of Australia in November. This is something that I never knew and is fairly recent, but every single, when you sort of do your biology and you first learn about there being a pain receptor in a muscle, and it sends a signal up to the brain, and and that old-fashioned.
Your faulty.
What they actually now know is that every single pain receptor also has, sitting at that site, an immune receptor as well.
Yeah.
So the immune system and the pain system are constantly talking to each other, and it's so complex that we can't possibly really understand it. But what we do know is it's all been set up by your body in order so that you don't have to think about it.
Yes, and it makes sense for the fight or flight response, doesn't it? That there's no point you just having pain, because actually if you're going to be injured, you need to start healing straight away as well.
Yeah. So for some people it manifests as pain, and because I'm an osteopath, most people come to me for pain. They wouldn't come to me for usually their digestive system, although sometimes they do once they get to know what we do. But I think it just depends on you and your system and which system it's decided to manifest it in. It's all the way in which the nervous system and the immune system and the brain and the mind and all of that is interfacing, and it just manifests in different ways in different people.
And I think Susie's aware of that, and it's just because we tend to focus on chronic pain. But I'm a physio, you're an osteopath, and so yes, the majority of people that we see do have chronic pain. And it is a general term that we use. But yeah, I agree. There are many other conditions. There's a lovely website by a New Zealand prof called, is it the whole person?
All right.
Did you not come to the CPD webinar? There's a recorded webinar by him, if you're interested. Why isn't my mouse working? Okay, I can't find it. I think it's called Whole Person's Approach, and he's an immunologist. So his work, doesn't seem to have had the backlash that our field seemed to have had, and yet he is an immunologist that became a psychiatrist and then worked as a psychotherapist. So he sort of worked with the psychotherapy and the immune system, and he does treat people with cancer and immune conditions and all sorts. It's called Dr. Brian Broom, and it's very much in alignment with all the work that we're doing and looking for the story behind everything. There's some tools on there for patients as well as tools on there for practitioners to understand as well. So he very much is not about chronic pain. He very much is a whole person approach, basically. Catrin is saying neuroimmune system networks are starting to be well described, absolutely, in literature at single cellular level. Very important links in cardiovascular disease too. Absolutely. There's just there's basically ill health. Any ill health is going to be linked with what's going on in our lives.
Yes.
That's whatever symptom it is.
Yeah.
And I suppose part of this, keeping it initially with chronic pain, is the fact that we focus on pain science, and that there's so much more pain science rather than, if you think of all the cancer research, it's none of it will touch on trauma, or which is why I don't actually put money towards cancer studies, but none of it looks at trauma or emotions.
No.
And yet the evidence shows that there is a significant link between adverse childhood experiences and conditions like cancer and heart disease.
Yes.
So definitely the link there. And we certainly, when writing a book, it was a lot easier to find the evidence for chronic pain and not to be hauled up as pseudoscience by trying to deal with other stuff where there was less evidence.
Yes, yeah. Gabor Mate talks about that, doesn't he, in his book? When the body says no, he starts to make those linkages. But yes.
Yeah, and his new book as well. What's it called again? The Myth of Normal. Love that book. So, and it covers everything. It really does. I just think everybody should read this book.
I have to check that one out. I didn't know he had another one out, but yeah. I love this book.
It's very good, and yes, it covers our work, but so much more, and all the different traumas, and just the fact that because we consider things as normal doesn't mean they're right. So just because we consider it as normal to send a child to its room when it's naughty, doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. No. Just because we, I don't know, deliver babies in a hospital room with bright lights and cut the cord straight away doesn't mean that actually is the right thing to do. So it covers all sorts of areas of our life and culture and everything. It's really, really interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I think we will draw this to a close, but thank you for your comments, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to have input and help us lead the conversation. So I think we'll leave it at that, but have a lovely Easter, everybody. And I'm glad, oh, hello, Alex, you're there as well. Yes, good, I'm glad you enjoyed the book. Okay, nice to see you all, and have a wonderful Easter. Take care.
Yeah, thanks very much, Georgie. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.